Hey guys, we're on the last problem. We're almost there. Thank you for making it this far. So this function here, we want to factor. That's the first thing. There's so much empty space. So we want to factor this bad boy. So we have f of x is equal to. So I noticed that x squared and minus 4x, they have a GCF of an x. So I should pull that out. So when you pull it out, x squared divided by x is x. Negative 4x divided by x is negative 4. In our denominator, we also notice that they all have an x, so we should also factor that out. So we are left with x squared minus x minus 20. All right, so a couple things I noticed. This cancels out on the left. When that happens, we know that there is a hole, right, at whatever that value is, which is x, equal to 0. Right? If it was like x minus 2, you take that, you set it equal to 0. So we're almost done. We're not quite done. We have x minus 4, right? And notice that we can still factor this x squared minus x minus 20. It will factor. So two numbers that multiply to get negative 20 that adds up to negative 1 has to be 4 and 5. And, well, the 5 must be negative because we want it to be negative x. So it doesn't really matter where you put it. So plus 4 minus 5. Okay. This is my final version of the factored form. So let me just rewrite that out so it's cleaner. It should be x minus 4 times x plus 4 times x minus 5. So now, to find a hole, like we need to take the y value. We need to find the y value by replacing the x with 0. So 0 minus 4 over 0 plus 4 times 0 minus 5. So that becomes negative 4 over 4 times negative 5. I like to cancel out the negatives, so that's a positive. And I'm going to cancel out the 4's, which means I'm left with a 1. So y is 1/5. So there's a hole at 0, comma, 1 over 5. So let's plot that point here. 0, comma, 1 over 5 is like somewhere over here. Okay. I like to solve for the vertical asymptote next. So to do that, I take my denominator, x plus 4, times x minus 5, set it equal to 0, and then solve for x. So we need to take each factor, set it equal to 0, and then solve. I subtract 4 on this side, and then I add 5 on this side. So there's a vertical asymptote at negative 4. Let's draw that out. There's a vertical asymptote at negative 4. And there's the vertical asymptote here at 5. Bam. Once we're done with that, we should figure out what the horizontal asymptote is, or the slant. Because the degree of your numerator is 2, which is less than the degree of your denominator, which is 3, the horizontal asymptote is just y is equal to 0. So horizontal asymptote, y is equal to 0. Right? So we know that the domain of this should be all real numbers. X is not equal to negative 4, nor 0, nor 5. And last but not least, I like to make a sign chart. Right? So let's make a sign chart so we know what the behaviors are going to be. So the sign chart, remember, they are your vertical asymptotes, which is negative 4 and 5. And you should also figure out what your x-intercept is, which we haven't done yet. Okay, so let's find the x-intercept. The x-intercept is when you take your numerator, which is x minus 4, set it equal to 0, and then solve. So our x-intercept is 4, right? So x-intercept is 4. So 4 goes here. The y-intercept, well, first of all, there's none. Because notice that there's a hole at 0. But if you really want to work it out, notice that y is equal to 0 minus 4 over 0 plus 4 over 0 minus 5. Right? So if you plug in 0 for all of these, right? The thing is, if you plug in 0 in the simplified version, you get some weird issue, right? You get an actual number. So what you really need to do is you need to plug 0 back into the OG function, right? So you plug in 0 in the OG function, you get 0 minus 0 over 0 minus 0 minus 0, which is 0 over 0, which is undefined, right? So we can't do that, right? If you plug in here, ironically enough, you get this value, but that's not your y-intercept, right? That's a hole, right? So there is an x-intercept at 4. So we can kind of make a sign chart. So we want to plug in a number. Let's say I plug in 6, right? 6 goes in. I plug into this version here, right? 6 minus 4 over 6 plus 4 or 6 minus 5, right? 6 minus 4 is 2. That's 10 over 1, which is 1/5. But whatever, it's positive, right? And it should switch because none of these are that's not a double root. That's not a double root. That's not a double root. So it goes from positive to negative to positive to negative. Great. That means that this is going to look like this. Positive. This is negative. Positive here. Of course, positive again, so. And left of -4, it's negative. If it's a quiz, you probably should take out a calculator and make a table of values, right? You should plug in like 6, we got 1/5, right? Plug in numbers like, I don't know, like -3, plug in numbers like -7, right? But you plug in -3, notice that you're gonna get a positive number. When you plug in a -7, you get a negative number, whatever that is. But if you want to do a quick graph, right? This is what it's gonna look like. And we are done.